This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And we are back for another edition of the Primetime Podcast right here on Most Valuable Podcast, your one-stop shop for college football and college basketball news and analysis. Just a good time. We love talking football, love talking college basketball. As we're now starting, Brandon, to transition a little bit into that time of the year with football ending. The 8th will be our last football game. It's sad to see that will be our last football game. We'll have to wait all the way until August until we get football again here on the podcast consistently like we have done all year. But we got a jam-packed show for you guys. Before I get into what we're talking about, got to do the housekeepings like I do every week. Number one, patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. If you're a returning viewer, if you're new, you like what we're doing here, toss us a few bucks. Help us keep the lights on. But if you can't, that's okay. All that's down below in the description. $1, you get an exclusive Patreon podcast bonus content than what you get for free right now. $2, you get the video. And at $10, you get to join Jake, Patrick. You get to join, I'm blanking on his name right now, Christian. I got it. See, I didn't forget you, Christian. Christian, Patrick, Jake. You get to join them and be on the podcast. Patrick was on the podcast. We talked baseball, which was interesting to the show, but we actually got to have a new perspective, new topic. So we get to talk about what you guys want to. And then also, if you're on iTunes, please give us that 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it. And then do the same for the Onside Kick, the Primetime Podcast. That's what we're on now, the Fast Break, the Rick and Johnny. And then lastly, I forgot, T-shirts. We're selling those, $22. That's all down below in the description. Housekeeping over. I got through it. That was really messy this week.
It was messy.
I will be on it. I'll be better. I'll be better next week for you guys.
You almost had to go and clean up the housekeeping.
Yeah, we got to do some house cleaning on the housekeeping. But Brandon, what we got today is we got a full draft podcast for everyone this week. We're talking 2 NFL draft podcast topics. We're talking 1 NBA podcast topics. Then we're going to make our picks for this week in the week of bowls, because bowl mania, bowl season, whatever you want to call it, is upon us. But what we're going to talk about first, NFL draft. And what we're looking at is we've already had 6 bowls come and go, but we have more coming up, more guys that are going to be in the NFL draft. And what I want to do to start the podcast is I just want to focus on which prospects, because it's always a tricky thing of some guys sit out, some guys want to play in the bowl game. But I want to just talk about, regardless of will they sit, will they play, just if they do play, who needs a strong bowl performance in their bowl game?
The number one guy I have at the top of my list is Josh Allen, quarterback from Wyoming. And the reason I say that is because, to me, he's the lost quarterback right now. He's the lost quarterback in this group of really good quarterbacks and a lot of quarterbacks coming out for the 2018 NFL draft. He had a very bad season. It wasn't good. He struggled. He wasn't what he was before. His name didn't come up a lot. I mean, how many times outside of one time and really one game that he played poorly against Iowa did we really talk about him on this show? We didn't. And I think that for him to kind of leave as one of the last games to play in college, to leave a better taste in people's mouths and a better memory of him within this last season, he needs a really good bowl game, at least in my opinion. And, someone will take him in the NFL draft, and he'll be good. He'll be good. But I don't see him as being in the elite part of this quarterback class. This year, if he would have played well, if he would have, I think, done what people expected him to do, maybe we could be talking about him in that elite class, but he didn't. He fell off, some injuries. He wasn't good. So if he can have a good bowl game, I think that could help people to be like, okay, that's the Josh Allen we know, and that's hopefully the Josh Allen that we'll see moving forward.
Well, the thing when it comes to Josh Allen, the first thing I thought of was and I don't want to make this as an excuse for this season, but I want to put a little bit, like a tiny little asterisk, maybe like this small asterisk next to Josh Allen's name, because the one thing with Wyoming this year, and everyone will say it, is they lost so much talent this year. They're not the same team that they were last year. However, you're sitting there going, Ricky, every team is different than they were last year. But I really think that, as little as it may be, played into effect here. It's easier to kind of overcome your shortcomings because everyone's got them. It's easier to overcome those when the wide receivers that you're throwing to, the guys that you're playing with, are better caliber last year than they were this year. But the bigger thing I think that played into this season is his shoulder injury, and that plays into this bowl game. Do you go ahead and play in the Idaho Potato Bowl and everyone's going to say it. Yeah, right now you might feel 90% recovered, 90% healthy, but there's always that chance of re-injury. Hell, we were even talking about it this week when we're saying, should the Packers start Aaron Rodgers from his collarbone? There's always that people are going to say, you know what, just sit it out. You're already projected to be maybe a top 10 pick in the draft. Go ahead, get your money. Don't even chance getting re-injured in this game. And that's a question that was proposed. I can't remember if it was Dan Patrick or Rich Eisen about Josh Allen. And they're like, they were talking about Josh Allen's father. And they said, if you're Josh Allen's father, are you sitting there telling him to, hey, I know you want to play in this game, but I don't think you should. I don't think you should. You should think about the future, think about your draft stock, and sit out this game. Or are you telling him, you know what? Go ahead and play the game. If you want to play it, go ahead and play it. I'm conflicted on that because there's a little part of me that's like, really the Idaho Potato Bowl doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. No, but I do understand if you're a player on that team, you want to finish it out with your guys. You don't want your guys that you've played with all season to see you as I'm thinking for myself or as a quitter, that you're a team guy, and you want NFL teams to see you as a team guy and putting the team first over yourself. The main part of me is, if in that question, if I was Josh Allen's father, I would say, do what you want. If you want to sit out, sit out. If you want to play, go ahead and play. Because that's the type of parent I would be. If it's a choice like that, do what you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's not me, it's you. If you want to play, go ahead and play. If you don't, then sit out.
It's completely up to him. I mean, it's completely up to Josh Allen. If it's something that he feels like he needs to do to try and prove one last time to people, to fans, to scouts, to teams, that he's got it and that he is, a guy who should be a top 10, 15 pick, then he does it. But if he feels like he's done enough and his track record has spoken enough for him outside of this past season, then maybe it's something where you worry about getting fully 100% healthy. You sit it out, and then you see what transpires from there in the combine and such, because the combine, as much as a bowl game is important, a combine is more important.
Well, that's where the doctors are going to look at you. What was it? I think it was, was it Shane Ray? Was he the one that had it was either, I'm blanking on it. It's either Shane Ray, who went to the Broncos, I believe, or the linebacker that, I blanking on his name, that went to the Falcons, where it was like a shoulder injury, and everyone thought, oh, he's fine. Combine happens. Doctors look at you. Boom, he falls, and he's end of the first round. I think it was Shane Ray going to the Broncos that year, where it was like doctors looked at you, hey, that injury isn't what we thought it was. Here's what the report is, and that's what it could do. I'm actually going to throw out two guys, and the reason why I'm throwing out two is one is kind of like a minor one I just want to mention, kind of on the same vein as Josh Allen. The second one is the true one that I was going to bring up. They're both quarterbacks. The first one's Luke Falk. He's a guy, beginning of the year, much like Josh Allen. Like Josh Allen, we were talking, there's three quarterbacks you want. You want Darnold, you want Rosen, you want Allen. Take your pick. We were even talking about, can Josh Allen play himself up into number one pick territory? Luke Falk was always that guy where it's like, he's there in my top five. Senior leader, good for the team. And I know I was reading something today where he said that this year he was just trying to he felt like he was trying to force the ball too much. And that was one of his big problems this year. But he's someone that, going up against a Michigan State team in the Holiday Bowl, could help his draft stock a little. I'm not saying get to the first round or anything, but he could help himself get to a position where it's like, okay, after Mason Rudolph, after Lamar Jackson, we can take this guy in the third. Like, he can play himself up to be a third-round guy, fourth round, even maybe a late second-round guy. The guy I really wanted to bring up, though, he's the elephant in the room. Playing for maybe a national championship, it's got to be Baker Mayfield. He's the showcase of this. Like, he has to be the showcase of this topic, right?
No.
Going up against a top 4 defense in Georgia, see what you can do there, and then have the potential to go up against a powerhouse in Alabama or the defending champion in Clemson. Like, he could have 2 chances to show draft scouts, hey, you know what, those personal, like, off the field, like, sidelined issues, yeah, we don't have to worry about those. We saw enough this year and in those 2 games.
You see, I would disagree a little bit there. I don't think that Baker Mayfield is the top guy that I'd be looking at because I think we've seen what Baker Mayfield's going to bring to you. He's done it throughout this entire season. He's done it for the last couple of seasons now. I mean, he hasn't been a guy that's fallen off and then come back and then fallen off and he's been injured and he's done this. No, that really hasn't been him. It was, he had obviously his story to get to college football and to be a legitimate starter in college football, but he's far removed from that. And obviously this year's Heisman Award winner, which I think is very well deserved for him, and then the other 2 guys, so Lamar Jackson and Bryce Love being there as well, I think very well deserved for both of them to be there too. But I don't think that Baker Mayfield is the one that I'd be, we need to take a look at Baker Mayfield. I wouldn't be doing that. My final one, and I shouldn't say my final one, but the quarterback that I'd be looking at outside of Josh Allen is one more time, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have a big one against Mississippi State.
And the reason that you say that is because you get one final look at him before it's done with college and on to the NFL Combine and things like that. And you want to be able to take one last look to see things in game action that you go, okay, this is what we really, really like. This is where we feel he could improve, all that kind of stuff from a guy that teams may be questioning right now. They may be questioning because he's not going to be one of those guys in the top 10 picks, but he's also one of those guys where you don't see him going, past round 2. So again, Lamar Jackson, he's one of those, again, unique talents that you're going to be able to get a whole lot out of him, but you want to see and be sure, especially for some of the teams that could be going after him, is this the guy that we want? Is he coming with all the skills that we believe that an NFL starting quarterback will be able to have? It's the same things that we've discussed every other time when we've talked about Lamar Jackson here in these last couple of weeks. But I really do think that if you're talking quarterbacks outside of Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson is the one that I'm looking at most of all.
Well, and here's one of the things that could be a flip side, and this goes for any prospect, to where we're trying to look at the positive. Like, hey, who could use that bowl game to up their draft stock? However, I'm just going to mention, there is the flip side to it. What if, like, anyone that we've mentioned so far, a Josh Allen, a Luke Falk, a Lamar Jackson, they go out there and they don't have their A to B plus games. Maybe they have a C game to where it's like, oh, crap, I was on the verge, I could have helped play myself higher, but did I just hurt my draft? I know NFL scouts and people are going to say, Burrick, you don't take one game and one game doesn't ruin the season, but still it's one of those things where you can look at it and go, if you don't have your A or B plus games, you have a C game, scouts might look and go, all right, he's showing some of the inconsistencies, some of the weaknesses, as that's the word I should use, the weaknesses that we see in his draft profile or what we're seeing in his film. So it's kind of a double-sided coin. However, we're, like I said, focusing on the positive. Who can, with a good game, play up? Lamar Jackson, I think I'm right on with you, where I'm hoping he plays well because I want him to play himself into first-round discussion, like end of the first-round discussion. But that, I'll be honest, that's more of a personal thing with me. I'm a Lamar Jackson fan. I want him to do well. That's why I'm hoping he plays himself. The last thing I want to throw in there about the Baker Mayfield before I move on to my next double package, because they're both the same position, is when it comes to Baker, I wonder if let's say he does win the national championship, if at the very least he can show a team like, hey, you know what? We like this kid all year because of what he's got. And he's got a championship mentality to lead his team to the championship.
Well, if he's able to, let's say he is able to win the national championship, or as some people would say, the national trophy, he's able
national trophy.
he's able to have then beat a very, very good, tough, stout Georgia defense. And then he's going to be going up against either a very good Alabama defense or a very good Clemson defense. So that would, again, show that he's not just a guy who's able to put up points because he's been in the Big 12 and he's been able to do all those things against lesser defenses, quote unquote, and he was able to do it against teams that are not only known for good offense, but just known for good all-around play and good defense.
My last two, and this will be my last, and then I'll have you give your last one or two, is I'm saying two because I'm clumping them together. Because right now, running back position, we're going to talk about a guy that is Saquon Barkley. He's the number, like, on our big board, we had him number one. He's the number one running back. But the next two running backs, in my mind, need big games. And it's interesting because Bryce Love, I'm looking at an article right here from AJC.com. Bryce Love is not skipping the Alamo Bowl. He's going to play against TCU. So I look at that and go, good. Play yourself into that discussion of a team like, and I look at, I think it was Todd McShay, the Seahawks, I think, in his mock draft. He had him going with Geis from LSU. Just the fact that they could be looking running back, a team late in that first round.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can play myself into that discussion where lower 20s, where I mean like 25 on into the second round, it's anyone's game for what you go with, because those are the playoff teams that really don't. Yeah, they have needs, but it's like, hey, we can go anywhere because we made the playoffs. We're going to be a playoff team. Let's just BPA it right here. Bryce Love is a guy I think he was Heisman discussion, great year this year. To me, the number two right behind Saquon Barkley most of the year. He can play himself, I think, into maybe first round, end of the first round territory. And then the other one, and I'm looking here on 247sports.com, and I don't have a for sure answer if he's going to play or not. Apparently he revealed his decision, but hints at NFL choice. But I'm just going to say it anyways. If he plays, I'm going to say Darius Geis is also another one in there that both of them, Geis and Love, could play themselves into if they have good bowl games. Hey, that just adds to the body of work to throw a committee term in there, and they can play their draft stock even higher.
I think the biggest one out of those two, if they did both play, the biggest one for me is going to be Darius Geis, because he has been a guy who has had an up and down run at LSU with injuries. He's been very, very good. I mean, I still remember when he came in for Leonard Fournette, when Leonard Fournette had gotten hurt over at LSU, he came in and we're like, oh my gosh, when Leonard Fournette leaves, we're going to be fine. You know, it's fine. See you, Leonard. Bye. Thanks for joining us. See you. Hey, Darius, how's it going? I mean, that's kind of how it seemed, because Geis had some huge 200-yard games, 2+ touchdown games when he was there with LSU. But then he got injured, and then he couldn't shake some of those injuries. And those 200-yard games seemed to be few and far between. So he would be the one in my mind who would help himself the most out of those two running backs, himself and Bryce Love, to show guys, okay, I'm back, I'm good, I'm healthy, I'm ready to go, I can run the football, I can make all the cuts you need me to make, I can catch the football out of the backfield if you need me to do that. But for the biggest thing for me with Geis is showing that he's healthy and then consistently staying healthy.
You know what's interesting with Geis is I'm flipping through this slideshow article right now on 247 Sports. Here's a Twitter conversation that Geis had. First tweet, I'm loyal to my team, not missing a game. I'm fully capable of playing it. Then Michael Capel tweets at him, Darius putting to bed any thoughts that he would skip the bowl game without tipping his hand on coming back or going pro early. And Geis actually said, actually, my chances are higher staying than leaving. So he's a guy that, yeah, he could leave for the NFL. He doesn't have to, though. I thought that, just seeing that is very interesting. And then he said, I'm at such a happy place in my life. I try so hard to spread my happiness.
Well, I'll be honest with you, is that if he did stay, it wouldn't be the worst decision for him. It certainly wouldn't, because it could get him another season, hopefully a full, healthy season under his belt. Again, LSU, I think, is a team that's starting to look up a little bit. They had their low point earlier this year. They lost to Troy. It seemed like everything was just going to pieces, but then they bounced back, and man, they've been good since that. And he has an opportunity there with them to get another year in, to show the NFL teams and NFL scouts that I can stay healthy for a full season. I can do even more than what I've been doing, in this past year and a half, and I'm going to show it to you. So that could be really interesting if he does stay.
And we're cutting a little short on time because with the camera we only have a half hour. Give us your final player that needs a big bowl game.
My final player would be Cortland Sutton, wide receiver from SMU.
I knew you were going to bring him up.
And the reason why I think that he would need a big bowl game is he was one of the guys on my big board in the wide receiver category, a guy who I think could be really, really good in the NFL. And a wide receiver that when he gets there, once you get to the red zone, you have certain players that you but that you are strongly targeting. And if you get inside the 20-yard line, it's going to so-and-so.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it is. I mean, it could be Jimmy Graham. That was for the Saints all the time. Not for the Seahawks anymore, but for the Saints. They got their Jimmy Graham. If they're not going to Graham, it's probably because he's not on the field. But I think that Cortland Sutton can be one of those guys. I think he needs to get a little bit better with his hands as a receiver in general, but I think that a red zone option, red zone target, he could be one of those guys who thrives down there. But this could be a game where he shows, hey, you know what, I'm able to do those things, to make those catches, to go up and get those balls over cornerbacks. I can do that. So I think that's another thing for him to be able to showcase in a bowl game why I think it'll be important for him to play in this one, then play well.
Well, and this is where I want to turn it on to you guys. We've talked about some of our guys. Let us know who you guys think need big bowl games. Who needs, well, not necessarily, I'm going to step back a little bit, either a big bowl game or I'm going to say a solid bowl game performance to help their draft stock. Who are you looking for to play in their bowl game, and you're excited to see what they show in this bowl game when it comes to their NFL draft stock? Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section.